Hi guys, so this video is going to look into basic modeling techniques. Okay, we're also going to look how to set up a project, which is super useful, so we're going to do that right away. So if we go up to the file and we go down here, you've got all your normal things in here, like we can make a new scene, we can open a scene, save a scene as, etc, import, export, send to Unity, tons of cool options in here. We've got this thing down here called project, so I'm going to open up the project window here. What a project is it makes a file structure. Okay, so this file structure will save all of our 3D files into the scenes area. Then we're then going to have all our textures in here. So our textures are going to be separate files eventually, and Maya is going to look somewhere for those files. So if your files are on your desktop at home and you bring your Maya scene in, Maya at college is going to be trying to find your desktop at home, which obviously it's not going to be able to do. So if you keep everything nice and organized in your project file here, those texture files, we can just drop them into the source images or the images folder. Then when we set up our textures within Maya, it's going to look to this place by default. We can then set the project, which I'll show you in a second, and what that will do is it will tell Maya where to look for everything, basically. So it'll have a nice kind of file directory here. So we can go up to new up here, and the first project we're going to make is a spaceship project. Okay, so we can type a spaceship project or something sensible in there and click accept, and it's going to generate that for us there. Okay, I've already created mine, so I'm going to press cancel, but you would hit accept and it would generate this file structure in this location for you, or whatever location you would like. Then when you bring those files into college, that folder structure, that project file, we can then go down to set project down here. So file, set project, and then we can then see that spaceship project there. We can click that, we can press set, and that's then going to find all of our files for us. Okay, so modeling techniques. So we've got our project set up. Maya knows where it's looking for things now. We're going to make a polygon cube, so we can click here, or again we can go up to those polygon primitives up there and we can make our cube. We could then maybe look at our subdivisions over here if we need maybe more subdivisions to start with. I'm not going to use any to start with. I'm just maybe going to kind of scale this cube around, move that down a bit, and end up with a good base. Most of your models start off as a cube, even characters, and things like that. So we tend to make things out of polygon primitives and sort of stitch them together. So it might be that we start off building the body with our cube, and then maybe we use a cylinder for the arms and things like that. So again, I would take those down and work really low poly. It's always best to start off low poly. We can always build it later. So if I take that down there to something like 12, I'd maybe start using this and building this as the arm of the character. Okay, but we're not going to get into characters or anything just yet. Cool, so we looked into components and what meshes are made of last video, where we held right click and we could access either the vertices, which were the dots, the points that we could manipulate and move around, the edges and the faces. So the first kind of tool that I'm going to teach you guys is going to be the extrude tool, and you have to be in face mode for this. Okay, so I'm going to click on this face here, and this little button here is the extrude tool. So if I click on this, I'm going to get my manipulator change, and what this has done is it has extruded the mesh. So I'm going to pull this forwards. Okay, so that you can see that this is pulling this out. I'm extruding a part of the mesh. I'm using the arrow. I'm not using that little box on the end there. I am using those arrow keys. So what the boxes will do is they will squish things together. They are our scale keys, so it's kind of all in one there. So I could maybe make a sort of a pointed front to my spaceship here. Okay, so I'm going to keep everything fairly simple to begin with. So that's my extrude tool there. Be really mindful of this. If I click extrude and then I don't want to do that extrude, if I click off, it looks normal, but actually it has made a little extrude in there. So if I show you, if I select an edge, if I click on this edge, use my W key to go to the rotate, you can see that it actually is hiding in there. Okay, I'll show you how to get rid of that a little bit later. But if you extrude and you don't want to extrude, press Ctrl Z and head back to your base mesh. You can always, if you're worried about it, maybe give it a little wobble just to check that it hasn't got anything extra hidden in it there. Okay, now likewise, we can hold down that shift key. So if I select this face here, hold shift, select this one, with left click, you can see I've got 2 parts selected. So I can extrude 2 parts at once. So if I can click this extrude tool, I could go up to my edit mesh and I've got extrude up there. You can see it actually has exactly the same icon there. If I click extrude, I can pull this out and you can see that both sides have came out there. Okay, it has, if I try to go up, they both don't go up. I've got this little thing here, I can click this, and now if I move them up, they're both going up. If I click it again, they're going to go in opposite directions again. Okay, so I'm starting to do that, which means I can now start making some fairly complex meshes. I could squish these in here, and again, I'm going to click this little gizmo here, take those up. I'm then going to hit my extrude button again, and I'm going to pull them out again. I've also got this little rotate here. I could rotate them. Okay, I'm going to maybe move those up again. Again, remember to click my little gizmo. Extrude again. I'm now starting to get some quite cool wings here. I'm going to extrude it once more, and the reason I'm doing that is because I just want a little ledge here. I want this face on top, so I'm going to click that face. Again, I want the other side, so I'm going to hold shift, I'm going to click that one, and I'm going to press extrude here. So then I can pull this up, move them backwards. I've now created some fins, maybe squeeze them in a little bit. Okay, so what I'm doing to one side, I'm doing to the other side as well. I could then perhaps tweak these. So maybe if I select those vertices, I'm going to select over these parts of the wing here. Hold shift, click and drag over those ones. Press my W key to go to move them back. So I'm actually going to start angling these, and I'm going to select these ones here, and I'm going to move these ones back as well. Super. So I've now got a bit more 3 dimensions. We need to make sure we're always thinking in 3 dimensions when we're working. We're constantly looking things at other angles. Remember, if it helps you, we can have this mode open where we've got kind of multiple angles that I can see all at the same time. I can move things in sort of multiple viewports, depending on what suits best. Okay. Cool. Okay, so I've started to get a little bit of a spaceship going on here now. But let's say that maybe I want to put an edge loop in here. Okay, and maybe I want to put an edge loop in there. How would I do that? Okay, well, there's a couple of ways that we can do this. The first way, we're going to go up to Mesh Tools and Insert Edge Loop. So I can click on here, and I'm now in the Insert Edge Loop tool, and I can just click on here and insert that edge loop. So Mesh Tools, Insert Edge Loop, click on the edge, and then I can drag. So I'm holding left click down right now and just dragging, and I can leave those in. I can then maybe tweak them now a little bit afterwards if I use my move tool, or maybe I'm going to use my scale tool actually and make these larger here. Double click will give you the whole edge loop, so it goes all the way around. So rather than you having to shift click every single one, I can just double click those edge loops, and it's going to take the whole thing. Make that bigger. Again, do the same here, make that bigger. Okay, so now I refined that there. Okay, I now have this issue where this side isn't the same as the other one. Okay, so we could look into mirroring this mesh. I'm going to go to object mode now, so I'm going to hold right click and come out of component mode, out of edge mode, and go to object mode. So now I've got the full object. I'm scaling or manipulating, rotating that complete object. There's a little button here that looks like kind of 2 things. That is mirror. If you hover over it and hold, you can see that says mirror. Again, we can go up to edit mesh, and we should find mirror in here. Okay, have they moved it into mesh tools? Ooh, I can't see it. Okay, so it's under mesh rather than edit mesh. So we are going to mirror the entire mesh, so it kind of makes a little bit of sense. So it's in there. So there's my mirror tool here. So I can click on this. If I click on these little squares, it usually gives me an option box. So if I click on that option box, I get this here. So the first thing is I've got cut geometry. That means it's going to cut the geometry in half without you having to cut it yourself. If I don't have that on, you will get something like this, where it has kind of duplicated your entire mesh. So that's not what we want. So if I step back, go to mesh and go to mirror, so we want cut geometry on. It's going to do it on the world, so that means it's going to use the grid basically here to cut down there. So the mirror axis is X. So if you look down here, you can see your axis, which means it's going to mirror it this way. So I don't want to mirror it this way. I want to mirror it from this side to this side, which is the blue one, which is my Z there. So I want my Z. It's going to combine with the original, which means it's going to merge them together. It's going to merge the vertices together after it cuts them. So if I hit mirror, you can see that it's mirrored it correctly here. Okay, if I was to use, let's click off that now. If I was to use the mirror button here, I could press this, and it's gonna give me this little menu over here, and I can access all of the same things, but without. So it's gonna access position on the object. So rather than the world, it'll mirror it on the object. I could also tell it not to cut the geometry. So if that's off, and then if we do it on Y, you can see everything's kind of changing live here. So if I wanted a different kind of one, I could also move it. But those are kind of part of the same mesh there. Maybe I want two different parts. Maybe I don't. Okay. Super. So we've inserted edge loops. We've mirrored our geometry. What we're going to do now is we're going to look on the channel box on the side here, and we can see that there's lots of inputs here. So what this is called, this is history. And what history can do is it can get in the way and cause you loads of headaches. So at this point, I'm going to go up to edit, and I am going to delete my history. And that's going to get rid of everything on the side. So it's essentially baking my mesh down, making sure that it's all one object that hasn't been changed. So this is no longer that cube anymore, it is its own unique object. Last little thing I'm going to show you, we might have maybe some thrusters that we want to build. So I'm going to make a cylinder here. Okay, so I've got a cylinder now. I think I might have made a few more inside here. Yep, just going to delete those. Set this back to 0. So I'm going to put some thrusters on this. So I'm going to select this. I'm going to take, I'm going to rotate it on the Z axis. So here, I'm going to rotate it by 90. I'm going to use my channel box to do that. And I'm going to extrude this inwards. So rather than outwards, we can extrude inwards. So I'm going to go to my face mode. I am going to sort of select along there. Then I'm going to hold my control key down, select down here. And now you can see I've got those faces selected on the end. So I'm going to hit that extrude button. And this time I'm going to use offset, so I'm going to use the little menu and I'm going to offset it, so you can see it's pulling that inwards. I'm then going to hit that extrude tool again, and I can pull that in. I've now got a nice sort of pipe there, nice kind of thruster that I can use. So I'm going to click off that. I'm going to go back to object mode. Again, you can see my inputs on the side, so I'm going to go up here, edit, delete by type history, and I'm going to position this where I want it. So I'm going to move that into my mesh a little bit there. Okay, if I want another one, I can press Control D. That's going to give me new ones there. I can scale those inwards, copy a few more around. Okay, and then lastly, these are all multiple objects at the moment. So if I want to make them all one object, I am going to select everything there, go up to Mesh, and Combine. That's going to combine everything together, so now it's all joined as one object, so when I move it, it's all one. Makes everything nice and simple. Okay, super. So in this video we've covered mirroring, extruding. So extruding was our main tool there. You can make pretty much anything from an extrusion, extruding inwards, extruding outwards. We have then combined objects together as well to form our spaceship there, and a little bit of duplication. Okay, awesome. Thanks, guys.